Bitcoin was designed to give people freedom over their money, but that freedom doesn't always align with government priorities. In fact, when you have a deeper look, the more you realize that widespread Bitcoin ownership could actually go against how governments want to operate. Let's be real, governments rely on control over money. They issue the currency, they control the interest rates, and they track transactions. They enforce capital controls. That's how they fund public spending, influence the economy, and enforce law and order. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is borderless, permissionless, and immune to inflation by design. Nobody can print anymore. Nobody can use you from using it. That's powerful for the individual, but also a threat to the existing system. Imagine millions of people moving their wealth into an asset that the government can't freeze, trace, or inflate. That starts to weaken the monetary policy tools. It makes it harder to collect taxes, to enforce sanctions, or to stimulate spending through fiat devaluation. It's not that governments hate Bitcoin. It is that the system Bitcoin creates doesn't need them in the same way. And that is uncomfortable for any institution used to holding the keys. This is why we are seeing a mix of reactions globally. In some countries, Bitcoin is embraced as innovation. In others, it's heavily regulated or even banned. It's not just about crime or volatility. It's about control. Central banks are rolling out digital currencies, CBDCs. They give them even more power to monitor, limit, or reverse transactions. Meanwhile, Bitcoin users are setting up cold wallets and moving value without the middleman. That's a fundamental clash of incentives. Here's the tricky part. Most people think if they own Bitcoin, they are safe. But ownership only matters if you have the access. What if exchanges require invasive know your customer? What if capital gain taxes become extreme for crypto? You can own the Bitcoin, but if the infrastructure around it is squeezed, your access shrinks. We are already seeing signs of this. Some countries tax crypto aggressively. Others limit how much you can buy or withdraw. And during financial crises, governments often impose emergency rules, like freezing bank accounts or banning gold in the past. Bitcoin isn't immune to those tactics, especially if the majority of users rely on centralized platforms. This is why real Bitcoin ownership, not just exposure, but custody matters. If you don't hold the keys, you don't fully own it. And if you don't plan for policy shifts, you might find your freedom limited at the moment you need it the most. I'm not saying governments will destroy Bitcoin, and I don't think they can. But I do think they'll shape the rules around it in a way that protect their power. And as adoption grows, the friction will increase. Bitcoin is legal in most places, for now. But legality and accessibility are not the same thing. And if too many people opt out of the fiat system, expect more aggressive policies. So what can you do? First, understand the risks. Don't assume everything will stay the same just because it's legal today. Second, take ownership seriously. If you believe in Bitcoin, learn how to custody it properly. Third, stay informed. Policy is shifting fast, and the future of Bitcoin will be shaped as much by politics as it is by code. Personally, I think Bitcoin is one of the most important tools for individual sovereignty we have ever seen. But with great freedom comes pushback. And the next chapter of Bitcoin's story might not be about price. It might be about who actually gets to use it and how. If this gave you a new way to think about Bitcoin and policy, hit subscribe. I post daily content on Bitcoin, money, and real power dynamics shaping our future. Let me know in the comments, do you think governments will allow full Bitcoin freedom or eventually push back harder?